Coming up today, creating decent jobs for Korea's young people is the focus of Government Ministry's third policy briefing for President Park Geun-hye. There's also extra attention on striking a healthier balance between work and home life. Visiting US Deputy Secretary of State Tony Blinken holds talks with South Korea's defense and foreign ministers on countermeasures against North Korea following its recent nuclear test. Plus, the price of West Texas Intermediate sinks below $29 a barrel for the first time in 12 years as supply continues to vastly exceed global demand. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello, it's noon on Wednesday, the 20th of January. You're tuned in to our midday newscast here on Arirang TV. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Broom. Our top story this afternoon, making Korea a happier and more rewarding place for the nation's young people. That was the focus of the government's third policy briefing session this morning with President Park Geun-hye. Related ministries pledged to do more to help college graduates and young families in these tough economic times. Song Ji-sun has the details.
Improving quality of life, making people happier. That's the core of the government's third policy briefing for 2016. The session focused on creating new jobs for Korea's young people and providing customized welfare for everyone so that no one is left out. Labor and education reforms will continue, with universities reducing their admission quota and better matching the needs of employers and students. President Park called on labor and management to yield and sacrifice in equal measure given the urgency of the situation. With youth unemployment topping 9% last year, the government has boosted its budget for youth job creation by 20% this year to nearly $2 billion. For customized welfare, regional community centers will be revamped into welfare hubs for local residents. Finding the right balance between work and family life is another goal. President Park stressed that young families should be supported so they can raise kids and work at the same time. The government will provide customized policies for men and also have women get new jobs after their maternity leaves. Song Ji-sun, Arirang News.
South Korea is moving to strengthen its security measures in light of recent terror attacks around the world. The government once again urged the National Assembly to approve a counter-terrorism bill that's still stuck at the National Assembly. Shin Se-min reports.
The chief of the National Police Agency says he will turn the agency's 140,000 officers into trained agents to prevent terrorism. Speaking at a government and ruling party meeting at the National Assembly Wednesday, the police chief said 7 SWAT and 276 police units will be stationed around the country as emergency counterterrorism units. Meanwhile, the government reiterated its call to lawmakers to approve a counterterrorism bill that's been stalled for years at the National Assembly. Second Vice Foreign Minister Cho Tae-yeol said the ability to detect and prevent terror threats is crucial to handling attacks like the recent suicide bomb blast in Jakarta, Indonesia. The attack in Indonesia is considered the first in Asia carried out by Islamic State militants, raising concerns about the possibility of similar threats in Korea. According to the National Intelligence Service, Korea has deported 51 people for ties to terrorist groups over the past 5 years. Of them, 7 people were found to have joined ISIS after they were deported. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
Now, South Korean Defense Minister Han Min-gu and US Deputy Secretary of State Tony Blinken met earlier today to discuss a coordinated response to punish North Korea for its latest nuclear test. Minister Han reaffirmed that Seoul is pursuing international and bilateral sanctions against the regime. Blinken reiterated the two allies will challenge the regime in total solidarity and urged the international community to join them in issuing a strong response to Pyongyang. The American diplomat is scheduled to meet with other senior South Korean officials, including Foreign Minister Yoon Byung-se, later today. Blinken arrived in Seoul on Tuesday as part of his 3-nation tour of Northeast Asia following the North's 4th nuclear test. Russia is calling for the North Korean nuclear issue to be resolved through dialogue among members of the six-party nuclear talks. This is according to South Korea's top nuclear envoy Hwang Jung-guk, who held consultations with his Russian counterpart Igor Mogilov in Moscow on Tuesday to seek Moscow's support for further sanctions against North Korea. Now, Hwang said the two sides agreed the UN Security Council must take firm action in response to North Korea's fourth nuclear test earlier this month. However, many experts in Seoul say Russia, a veto-wielding permanent member of the Council, wants to solve the problem through dialogue, not sanctions. A senior US missile defense official says North Korea has not increased its nuclear capabilities despite its latest nuclear test earlier this month. Vice Admiral James Schring, who is director of the US Missile Defense Agency, said on Tuesday that the North's technical capability has not improved, but did not elaborate on the basis of his assessment. Schring added that the US has taken steps to stay ahead of the North's nuclear threat and is monitoring its actions. He also said the North's recent test has not changed the agency's missile defense program. North Korea conducted its fourth nuclear test on January 6th, claiming it was a successful test of a hydrogen bomb. US experts have expressed doubt about that claim. Now, global oil prices hit a 12-year low on Tuesday to under $29 a barrel. This on concerns about the economic slowdown in China and anticipation about the addition of Iranian crude to the market. Oh Soo-young has the details.
February contracts for West Texas Intermediate plunged 3.3% to $28.46 per barrel on Tuesday, the lowest level since 2003. Brent futures were also trading below $29 per barrel, but gained 0.7% from the day before, to close at $28.76. The price drop comes amid investors' concerns about an economic slowdown in China, the world's second biggest economy and its second largest oil consumer. Beijing is predicting its economy will grow at a rate of 6.9% this year, the lowest estimation in 25 years. But the biggest punch comes from the lifting of international sanctions on Iran, further fueling concerns about a global oversupply of oil. On Monday, Tehran issued the order to turn on the taps, and it could increase its output by 500,000 barrels a day for the next 6 months, and up to 1 million thereafter. With Iranian oil flooding the market, analysts predict that oil prices will likely fall even further, below the current 12-year lows. The International Energy Agency has cut its forecast for global oil demand this year, saying that the global oil glut will last into late 2016, exacerbated by falling demand due to warm winter weather conditions. As global oil prices tumble, the cost of diesel in Korea has fallen dramatically, down to 95 cents per litre on average and to 81 cents at some petrol stations. Those are the lowest diesel prices for consumers in 9 years. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Now it's that time of the year when politicians and business leaders gather in a small town in Switzerland to talk about everything from oil prices to climate change. They have plenty to talk about as the world economy faces numerous challenges in 2016. I'll go on to our reports on the opening of the World Economic Forum in Davos.
Ready for Davos? With the annual World Economic Forum kicking off Wednesday, anticipation hangs in the crisp air of the Swiss Alps town. Participants have been streaming in from around the world to put their heads and hearts together to talk about the economy and other pressing issues.
Our president, Enrique Peña Nieto, is going to be here. He's going to put our country in the context of the energy reform that we had.
Because it's my first time here, I'm also really excited because there are a lot of journalists from all over the world, and I can see how they do it and how we do it. Oh, I hope Obama will come, but I think that there were rumors that he will come, but I don't think so at the moment. Yes.
Some 250 journalists will keep their eyes and ears open on daily developments and who met whom and who said what at Davos. On the eve to the official kickoff, actor Leonardo DiCaprio had the spotlight for his activism on climate change. Generosity is the key to our future, is what he said as he was awarded a Crystal Award that honors artists for their contributions in improving the state of the world.
We simply cannot afford to allow the corporate greed of the coal, oil, and gas industries to determine the future of humanity.
Klaus Schwab, founder and executive chairman of the forum, said he hoped the participants make many friends, come up with transformative ideas, and
I hope you go home and you are, as myself and all my colleagues, convinced that the future of our small global village can only be well managed if there is as much dialogue, collaboration, and cooperation.
The founder of the world's most recognized economic event stressed that the WEF is not just a conference, but an experience. And during the 4-day event, Korea and Arirang TV will be actively taking part in that experience. Kwon So-hwa, Arirang News, Davos.
Staggering. That's how the United Nations describes the severity of the violence suffered by civilians in Iraq. In a new report, the UN says almost 19,000 people have been killed in the country between January 2014 and October 2015. It also says the so-called Islamic State group is holding more than 3,500 women and children as slaves. The report adds that ISIS has been carrying out public executions and brutal punishments, including stoning, beheading, burning alive and being thrown off buildings. The UN's report is mostly based on testimony from the victims, survivors or witnesses of the violence. Former Alaska governor and 2008 U.S. vice presidential candidate Sarah Palin has endorsed Republican frontrunner Donald Trump. At a rally in Iowa State University on Tuesday, Palin asked the crowd if they were ready to, quote, stump for Trump, and said she was proud to endorse the billionaire property developer. The endorsement comes less than 2 weeks before the February 1st caucuses in Iowa, where Palin has spent years building a huge degree of support there. Now, Trump said he was greatly honoured to receive her support, calling Palin a respectable friend and a high-quality person. The endorsement will be followed by a joint appearance on Wednesday in Oklahoma. Now, Ted Cruz, Trump's chief rival, said he will remain a big fan of Palin regardless of what she decides to do. Now, Korea's beef imports hit a record high in 2015 thanks to the skyrocketing price of local meat. The Korea Customs Service says the nation imported over $1.8 billion worth of beef last year, up 8.5% from the previous record of nearly $1.7 billion in 2014. It's the highest figure since the agency started keeping track of related data in 1995. By nation, Australian beef commanded nearly 57% of the total, followed by US beef. Now, the supply of Korea's own Hanu beef declined due to government policies and disease outbreaks, while the growing popularity of outdoor activities spurred demand, causing Hanu prices to rise sharply. The Korea Royal Economic Institute says the hike in local meat prices is likely to continue, which will fuel more demand for cheaper imported beef. Now, plastic transformed manufacturing, packaging and storage, but now it's in real danger of poisoning the planet's oceans. Lots of plastic we end up throwing away actually ends up in the ocean. In fact, a new report shows the pollutant will overtake the amount of fish in the ocean in just a few decades' time unless drastic measures are taken. Son Jung-in has more.
Oceanographers come across an adult sea turtle. They find something that has been clogging its nostril. When they manage to pull it out, they see it's a plastic straw.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of contamination in the ocean. Sea creatures that eat the garbage become sick. They lose their sense of direction and wash up on the seashore.
Some 150 million tons of plastic waste is estimated to be floating in our oceans, with an additional 8 million tons making into the water every year. The World Economic Forum has forecast that at the current pace, there will be more plastic than fish in the world's oceans by 2050. According to its report published on Tuesday, the main problem is that plastic is often disposed of after only being used for a short amount of time and is not properly recycled. In fact, only 5% is effectively reprocessed, while the remainder ends up in landfills and oceans. The report says that tackling the problem requires the joint efforts of consumer goods companies, plastic packaging producers, authorities that manage waste, and policymakers. Plastic is one of the world's most popular materials, and its use has increased 20-fold over the past 50 years, with the rate only expected to multiply in the coming decades. The WEF says solutions need to be found quickly to avoid an ecological disaster. Some options include offering people incentives to recycle plastic and encourage countries to improve their waste collection infrastructure. 손정인, 아리랑 뉴스.
Now, Korea remains in the icy grips of an extreme cold snap, with the mercury in Seoul registering minus 14 degrees Celsius this morning. If you were out and about, though, it felt even colder, more like minus 19 degrees Celsius. Snow is also expected to pile up in the southwestern region of the nation and on some parts of Jeju Island, where as much as 10 centimeters is forecast today. A cold wave from the Arctic region is expected to affect the Korean peninsula through early next week. So be mindful of that and try your best to stay warm and take all the necessary precautions. Well, those are the stories we have been following on this Wednesday afternoon here in Seoul. For more of the latest, don't forget to check out the website arirang.com, and it's also worth checking out our smartphone application. Just search for Arirang TV in the usual places. Have a great day. Goodbye.